is always the funny part, the intros. I never know whether to do a formal intro or like start conversation,
Yeah.
but we got Jake Berger here with us today, pro baseball player, but you're so much more than that. You got a crazy story and we're going to get into it. But before we do, I got to ask, FIFA or NHL when it comes to video games?
Oh, wow. Heavy hitters right out of the gate. I would say probably FIFA. I love NHL. Like, I absolutely love it. That was like the game. It was honestly FIFA and NHL that I grew up on. And so I would say FIFA just because I think it's the fairest game like across the board. Like NHL, like there's always these like few plays you can always run. Like it kind of annoys the other player, but like FIFA, I think it actually takes skill and like especially if you know soccer, like you can start like using that strategy a little bit. So I would say FIFA is a little more. It's just a little higher. It's not too much though.
And you're a big soccer fan, so like I'm sure that kind of has a little bit to do with it. I know you kind of mentioned how NHL, there's like some plays that are kind of like annoying or you get agitated about, but like, dude, you're a huge soccer fan, so you could probably rip FIFA like who knows how many games or matches, as they say,
Dude,
and
it's
like you
nuts.
just get lost.
No, I get lost and like I start like forming strategies and like I have different formations that maybe my team's not working well with the previous formation, having my right back going like running flies with like the forwards. Like I like really get into it with the strategy side of it. So like my friends probably hate playing me, but it's so fun.
I'm gonna have to get your handle later on and play some bets against you and a couple of my buddies. I know Nick Perez, Nick Bloom, my buddy Brandon, a bunch of these dudes love playing and they love talking smack. So if I could put somebody big time up against them, I'd definitely throw a couple bucks down.
Hell yeah.
All right, so let's get to the very, very beginning of your story, which it's just absolutely incredible. And everybody listening to this and watching this is going to find out more about you and your journey. But dude, so it was 1,163 days between playing any sort of organized baseball from 2017 and 2021. Over 1,100. And I want to start at day one when you were born in St. Louis, Missouri. So let's work up to that point. But yeah, man, a St. Louis dude, pretty cool.
Yeah, no, I love St. Louis and like my family's still there and I love going back. It's a chill vibe and a lot of fun there.
So you had your mom who played tennis and you had your dad who coached you in Little League. So that was pretty cool that they both kept you involved in sports and everything. So when it came to actually getting out there and trying a bunch of different things, because obviously baseball and tennis are two different sports, were they both just as instrumental as the other when it came to like getting out there and having fun?
I would say probably my dad athletically, and my mom ended up being a school teacher, and she's a librarian now. So she was definitely more on like hitting the books hard and always making sure I'm turning my homework in on time and not missing school. But yeah, I would say like it kind of came down to baseball or hockey for me. My sister was tennis and soccer, so it's kind of cool because my mom always was helping my sister, and my dad was always helping me with baseball. But yeah, I mean, it was a tough decision between hockey and baseball, and I finally had to make it in high school. But and now I've picked up tennis over the last year and a half or so, and I'm like absolutely loving it. Like, if I could reset the clock, like I would definitely be playing some competitive tennis growing up.
I just had on Whit Merrifield on the show the other day and we were talking about how his mom played tennis and he liked to get out there too. So it's kind of cool seeing a couple of baseball players who have that sort of interest because it's kind of a sport that you don't really hear about too often. You usually hear like they played football or basketball or something like that. So tennis that's pretty cool. And yeah, dude, you have a pretty nice, I saw your serve look pretty good, man. And I'm not just pumping your tires. Like I was pretty impressed.
Yeah, no, that's like probably the last part of the game that needed to come along, and like it's starting to come along, and I want to start playing competitively, but I think the White Sox would be a little against it, but you never know.
Yeah, yeah. Shoot, these days, multi-sport stars. I'm sure it can happen. So when it came to baseball and hockey, at what age did you stop playing hockey? Because that's one sort of fact that maybe not a lot of people know about you, just because you were a first-round MLB draft pick. So it's very baseball focused when it does come to a lot of people doing the research on you and knowing about you.
Yeah, I would say probably I think it was like 15 or 16. It was my sophomore year. of high school. So I tore my meniscus, like kind of had like a weird, like small injury, minor injury in hockey. Like I kind of got clipped while like my skate was going one way. And it just kind of came down to the decision. Like my dad, and like I remember the car drive from the rink going home, and he's like, "Hey, like this is a tough conversation, but like we have to have this. It's like what do you see is the best route going forward? Because we kind of have to pick." And I ultimately chose baseball, and the rest is history. You know, I still try and get out on the ice every now and then. And I love the sport. I love watching it, but and I have a lot of friends because St. Louis is a big NHL hub, so I have a lot of friends that are in the NHL as well. So like I kind of live vicariously through them, but you know, I still love the sport, but baseball is definitely the right choice.
So that was sophomore year of high school?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Wow, so that was actually pretty, like, much later than I would have thought. That's
Mm-hmm.
pretty wild that it went as far as it did. Because dude, that's pretty close to college where, like, you get to a point where you can maybe play in college, and like you said, you had friends and have friends who play in the NHL. St. Louis, so you're a Blues guy?
No, no, that's a lot of my friends in St. Louis hate me for it, but I'm a Blackhawks fan. I so I like the Blackhawks, and then like now that I have friends in the NHL, like I kind of just root for them. Like I have a buddy on the Predators, buddy on the Coyotes, buddy on the Flames, so I just kind of like root for them. But if I had to pick a team, it'd be the Blackhawks.
Alright, there you go, and you're a White Sox fan growing up, so I can see that Chicago connection. I got a couple of those in my family too, so, we do have a Black Hawk T-shirt here and there in the home.
Love it. Best home jerseys ever. I think the red. You know, it's just so classic. So classic.
Dude, yeah, yeah. I went to, I think it was either like 2 or 3 of their home openers recently, and absolutely, it's just so electric there, and the national anthem and everything like that,
Oh,
like,
it just
dude,
gives you chills. Yeah.
yeah. Those are games that you remember the beginning, but not so much the end.
Yeah. Exactly. No issues with that.
Yeah, yeah, no, seriously. The last game that I went to over there, it was the end of the game. I think like the Blackhawks scored 8 goals or something, and the kids in front of us, they were like, I don't know if this is the correct term for it, but beer waterboarding each other. Like
Yeah.
after the 8th goal,
No
they just had their
way.
jerseys over their face and they
Just
were pouring their
oh
like
my
30 some
god.
ounce beers over them. I'm like, dude, that's awesome. I wish I had my phone out to take a video to show you, but I'm like, man, all right, so we got the hockey background, and then sticking with the high school, we were talking right before the recording. You went to Christian Brothers College High School. Myself, I went to Christian Brothers Academy High School. We actually had one NHLer, well, actually a couple. James Van Riemsdyk and Trevor Van Riemsdyk. They went there. James has been on the show before. Very similar backgrounds. That like private Catholic school, all boys and everything. So there's just that like crazy camaraderie that we were talking about before. But how much did that play a role in your development, just turning in from a kid to an adult at a young age?
Yeah, no, I mean it helped me a ton. You know, I think CBC was like one of the big things in like getting technology in the classroom early. And I basically rolled into college like knowing how to turn in assignments and knowing how to use my computer to the best possible ways. And then I would just say like just those social interactions you have with so many people. Like I don't like I know a lot of high schools, you know, there's like a ton of bullying and like, you know, like people kind of putting each other down. Like CBC was not that. Like and I don't know how CBA was, but like if it was the brotherhood like we're talking about, like it really wasn't like that. Like I mean, even this past weekend I was down at Missouri State with for my sister's graduation, and you know, we're out celebrating, and like a guy that was in my class that like I barely talked to like came up and we just started having a conversation, you know. So it's like there was always this like social interactions where like nobody's better than the other person. You know, and it was just like it was really cool seeing that at a young age, and that's kind of how I've carried it along, you know, for my entire life. Like not one person's better than the other, you know, we're all human. That's kind of what it taught me, and it was definitely a big learning experience for me.
Dude, 1,000%. And the thing that you said that I believe the most out of all of those is that you're not better than anybody else. So just treat everybody the same. You go to Starbucks to grab a coffee, say thank you, say hello. Like they go home to a
Yes.
family too. you know?
Exactly. Like we're all dealing with our own problems, like just be
Yep.
happy and be kind toward each other.
Yep. And it's wild also that you said, just like you having a conversation with anybody. Dude, there's been times where I've had conversations with people not knowing that they had gone to CBA, or I've had a conversation or been somewhere on vacation somewhere with a CBA shirt on, and then somebody's like, "Oh, I went there too." Like it's nuts.
It's yeah.
Like you said, you just strike up a conversation, you just have fun, which is exactly what we're doing right here.
Yeah. No, it really is like a different type of vibe and like a different brotherhood for sure.
How much did that eventually translate? I know you said for college, it's like you get to college and you know how to work the computer and do the homework. But for me, I mean, I went to Quinnipiac University, just a small Division I school in the Northeast. But yeah, you just felt so prepared. So when you played baseball in college, how much did that help with not having as much pressure to do all the academics while playing a sport? Did it feel like a walk in the park type thing?
Yeah, it made it so much easier. I mean, we used Blackboard like literally from 2010, I guess, like when my freshman year at CBC was, and like it's the exact same thing we're using at Missouri State. So it was like I didn't have to learn new formats. I didn't have to learn like what a lockdown browser was. I didn't have to learn any of that, like how to function using my computer. So yeah, it made it like it's like okay, this is kind of a cakewalk, especially you're taking gen ed classes, and it's like this is pretty easy. This is pretty comparable to what I was doing at CBC. So it's like now let's focus on baseball and win a starting spot. It really was like and I've never really thought about that until you had that question. But like, yeah, it made it so much easier, and it made it seem like I was back at high school, but playing at a different level in terms of baseball.
Yo, yes. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and I'm sure you probably had a tough class or two. I know you took an economics class with like, dude, like, oh, yeah, forget that.
Hmm.
How was that for you?
What economics?
Yeah.
I majored in it,
I know,
and I
that's
think
what
I
I'm
had.
saying. Like, how did you like how?
I don't know how I picked it. I mean, I think I really. I was talking to my girlfriend. I was talking to my girlfriend about this over the weekend, and I'm like, honestly, I think I really like psychology and I really like numbers. And like economics is really, if you look at like the macroeconomics and even micro, it's like it's kind of mixing the two. It's mixing the psychology of the average consumer mixed with numbers. So it's kind of like paradise for me in a way. But yeah, I think I have like 15 hours left to like finish my full degree, and like going back to Missouri State for my sister's graduation really kind of inspired me to get back on those classes and finish up.
Oh, all right, there you go.
Yeah.
That's
Hmm.
doable. Who
Yeah.
knows? Maybe by the time that we release this, you'll have gotten the full degree.
Yeah. Exactly. Exactly. Let's hope so.
Yeah. So you're playing baseball, and then you get to a point where you get so much interest from all these different teams going into the 2017 MLB draft, and then the dude gets picked 11th overall. So here we got Jake Berger in college, majoring in economics, just an absolute stud all around, and then you get drafted 11th overall by the Chicago White Sox. Talk about a dream come true.
No, it was incredible. I didn't like going into college. You don't expect anything. I wasn't really heavily recruited draft wise, even college wise, out of high school, and got invited to Team USA my sophomore year of college, and so then I'm like, okay, this is doable. I probably get drafted somewhere. And then draft day comes around. Like we won a lot at Missouri State. We went to two super regionals, and kept doing our thing, and we lost the super regional the night before, and so it was like that draft day was kind of like a whirlwind of emotions because we just lost the super regional to TCU, and now everybody is celebrating the draft for me. So it was really special. Like my entire team was still in town, obviously, and so we had like literally the entire team, and then family and friends come down to Springfield, Missouri, and rented out a like conference room in my apartment building at the time, and had a great party, and it was so like it was one of the greatest days of my life because like not only for me because like I know I put in the work, but like for my dad and mom, like they did a lot. They drove me all over the country to play, and my dad threw BP every single day to me. So seeing the emotion in their eyes was so meaningful for me. And but yeah, it was a lot of fun memories from that day for sure.
Oh, I bet. And now, did you know for a fact that you were going to be going as early as you did? Because I know just from being at the MLB draft in Secaucus where they hold it, there's only like a handful of dudes who show up there. And that year, I know Joe Adele, who's actually been on this show too, who's drafted the pick right before you. He was there. Hunter Green. I'm trying to think who else. I think Brendan Rodgers, or maybe that was the year after. But anyway, these like they show up and stuff like that. The baseball's trying to make it bigger for all these guys to go and
Yeah.
participate. But for the regular fan out there who's listening to and watching this, what's the thought process going in behind something like that, where you know slash think that you're definitely going to be picked in that first round? Because it kind of puts a lot of pressure on that player. Because if you
Hmm.
show up, well, fingers crossed you get picked
Yeah, like
by the
you hope
first
you get
25
yeah.
teams, but you don't know. You have no idea. It's always a crapshoot.
Yeah, no, I think like a lot of the time that like they're at the draft actually, it's like a lot of prep guys. The college guys, some are still playing and stuff. But for me, like I kind of had the idea, like I FaceTimed actually like the Red Sox entire front office. Like I was FaceTiming with them like 3 hours before the draft. Like it was wild. Like nothing I've never like would have expected. Like they're giving me like a quick interview and stuff. But yeah, I mean, like it was kind of one of those things where we kind of had a range of like what's my ceiling, what's my floor. And I think during that time it was like the ceiling was 7 where the Phillies were picking, and 24 was the floor where the Red Sox were picking. So it was like probably anywhere in there. That's the idea, but like you obviously don't know that, and so like you just feel like the weight of the world's kind of lifted off your shoulders once you get a call and say, hey, like you're going to be a White Sox. So but yeah, you like a lot of guys have kind of that range where this is probably where we're going to go, and if it doesn't happen, like you'll get picked pretty close to your floor. But yeah, it's tough.
Dude, that's a pretty wild ride of emotions because, like you said, you just lost 2 games, and next thing you know, you got the entire Red Sox front office FaceTiming you. You're answering all these questions, and then you got the draft later on at night. You might go 7th to Philadelphia, but you really have no idea. Then next thing you know, your favorite team growing up, the
Hmm.
Chicago White Sox, picks you. I mean, you're a big Paul Konerko guy.
Hmm.
Uh, just your dad being a huge baseball fan, and like you emulating your game after Scott Rowland over in the hot corner. It's like, dude, wow, how many bottles of champagne can you pop in one night when something like that happens? You know,
No,
shit.
it was. This is actually a pretty funny story. So I get drafted, and there's like a distillery in St. Louis called Big Jake, and it's like this like clear bourbon or whatever, and like it's the worst tasting alcohol in the world. But my dad thought it would be like cool to have everybody do it, and like for the rest of the time, like anybody that was in that room was alive, they will, if you mention Big Jake to them, they will like audibly like gag and be like, "That's the worst alcohol I've ever." So stick it to my dad for making memories both through the draft, through the celebration as well.
No, I feel you on that. I definitely know of a couple of alcohols that do the same exact type of thing. And anytime something good happens, I'm like, oh, let's take a shot of tequila. But you already know if you're in a room with 10 people, not
Yeah,
everybody's going to want to take a
no,
shot of tequila.
exactly.
so, so right from there, you end up going to play in rookie ball and single A. So you played just over, I think it was around like the ballpark range of 50 games. I think it was like 40 and some single digits with the rookie league. But like you pretty much went like right into the swing of things, which for anybody listening to this, or any baseball players or any athlete, you know that you play college sports, so you're starting earlier and then you're going right. So this season is a long season and you got right into it and you played pretty well. So when you got that signing bonus and when you're that first round pick and you're playing in single A baseball and just again being thrown right into the fire, how did you take it? Was it all like the perfect speed? Was it all kind of too fast? Where did you feel prepared? Like what? There's just so much that goes into it, and I've had like a lot of ball players on this podcast, but I've never actually really talked about it with anybody, just because for whatever reason. But I feel like you're a good person to talk about this with because we're eventually going to go in this conversation. But just how did you take it?
So, I mean, at the time, like that's the longest year of your life, especially for the college players, because like you said, like you start so early, like you're starting competitive games February 10th, February 14th, somewhere in there. And then you get drafted, you go play the end of the season, which ends like September 5th ish. That year, we actually made the playoffs. So we ended like September 20th. And then we go straight to instructs and we're there until November. So it's like, I mean, you're basically going from February to November, and you don't really get a break. I mean, I would say the baseball side of it actually slowed down a little bit just because of, like the talent you're facing in these super regionals and regionals, probably across the board compared to these low A teams is comparable. I would say probably the super regional teams are probably a little better at times. So the game itself was slow. And then like the day to day stuff, like you kind of have to get into a routine pretty quick. That's pretty hard to do going from college, where you have your set wait times and your set practices and everything, your set off days. So like that was kind of hard to like figure out really quick, the routine wise. And then I would say like being a first rounder, the media side of it is the quickest part. I'm going from Springfield, Missouri, having, Missouri Valley media, which isn't that big. I love all the people in the Missouri Valley, but like then you're going to a big market in Chicago, and it's like you're like the first day I got to Chicago to throw out the first pitch, take BP with the team. Like I have like 30 microphones in my face, and I'm like, holy cow, like this is a lot. And so
You're in the
that's
broadcast booth too.
yeah, you're in the broad, like you're like everything, like you're on national television. It's just like this is a lot. But you slowly start to learn that like how to kind of deal on that side of things as you play more and you talk to more people. But yeah, no, it was a long year for sure.
Yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about too when it comes to like being a first rounder and everybody wanting to talk to you. And then it happens all throughout your minor league career because there's so many reporters and stuff like that who go to the minor league games and always look at the roster and then they say, "Oh wow, he's selected in the first round. Like, let's talk to him. Like, he's
Yep.
definitely gonna make it." Or let's talk to
Hmm.
him. We could talk to him about his signing bonus and what he did with it. Like, so no matter what, it's almost just like a magnet for attraction. And
Exactly.
yeah, no, you, like you said, you went to Chicago, you went to the game, you're in the broadcast booth, which is pretty cool. You had that fresh shaven face, and now the dude is just growing one of the best beards I've seen on my screen. So you got it going on. But no, thank you for explaining that because again, like I think a lot of people who listen to this when they see a player that gets drafted and then they disappear for 4 years, and then you're like, all right, well, where'd they go? And then one day they show up in the big leagues. So for you though, it's now February 26, 2018. This is when things take a turn and everybody has their own journey. Everything happens for a reason, but you're in spring training, and then that's when everything pretty much changed for you. So just share with the audience what happened during a game in spring training with the Chicago White Sox.
Yeah, we're playing the Oakland Athletics. I think it was like spring training game 4. At the time, I was hitting pretty well, and it was my first start. And first at bat, everything's great. Hit a double off the top of the wall, feeling really good. And then the next at bat, ground out, like hit a ball to third base, ground ball to third base, and I'm running it out. And, halfway down the line, tear my Achilles. Went down. I honestly thought like somebody tackled me from behind. I like really didn't know how to explain like the emotions that went through my head. Like when I first hit the ground, I thought it was like somebody like tackled me, or it was a weird feeling. And then surrounded by the medical team and carted off. So yeah, tore the Achilles.
Dude, isn't that wild? You are literally at in your world, at the top of your world, and then something like that, and now all of a sudden, all right, we got to take a step back and think plan B or think about how to control this situation. And then eventually you hurt your Achilles or ankle again later on down the road, like just when you're at home and like kind of like a freak accident.
Hmm.
How long after the spring training game was that?
I think I toured again. It was like April 30th. So like 2 months. Yeah, I was just in my backyard, just hanging out. Kind of got cleared to walk in sandals, walk in shoes. Like that eight week period after your first tear is pretty like normal to like start walking and stuff. And was in sandals and took a step back out of my sandal and it popped again. And so like it's nice because I don't really look at it as two separate injuries just because like they were so close to each other. But guys like Mike Soroka who tore his like a year after, it's like I can't even imagine what he's going through right now.
No, for real. And there's something about your story that I love, and obviously we're going to talk more about it, but this happens to you, and it's not just like you went and crawled into a corner or underneath the bed sheets and like said that was it. You worked your way back, but also too, you're looking at this as a kind of an opportunity to talk to other people who are kind of going through similar situations when it does come to mental health and everything. So you're using your platform for the greater good, which is just awesome. And just being open to talking about it because you did suffer from PTSD, which a lot of people think that that only comes from certain situations, like if you're in war or anything
Mhm.
along those lines, but it can happen to anybody, and it happened to you.
Yeah, no, that's my DMs are always open for anybody that wants to talk about what they're dealing with because like nobody's alone in this battle. And during that battle, you start to think you're alone. You start pushing people away, and you're breaking friendships and breaking like fit relations with your family. Your girlfriend, whoever it may be, like you just start pushing them away because you think nobody else understands what you're going through. During that time, it was tough. I mean, it was PTSD is definitely a real thing, and I think especially after the second one, because the first one, you're associating it with baseball, but the second one, I'm at home doing a normal thing, and that really messed me up. But the PTSD, yeah, I mean, legitimately, like I'd have days where like I almost couldn't get out of bed because like I'd have this like just the sensation of like me tearing it again, like my body tensing up and it's like replaying in my head over and over again. Sometimes like the attacks would last like 5 minutes, even like I couldn't move. So yeah, it's crazy because you kind of see what these vets coming back from war are dealing with because it's no joke. But also like battling depression at the time. There was like almost no motivation to get out of bed or go do rehab or anything, and I think that kind of spawns into anxiety of me being a first rounder and going to be a bust, and starting to think about like outside voices that really don't have any sort of meaning to my life, but you start thinking about that and thinking about people like what people are thinking about you. So yeah, it's like kind of a whirlwind of like three different things, kind of mixed into one. It was definitely like a dark like 2 year period. And it just kept getting worse. You're kind of spiraling, and I get back to a game and an extended spring training 1 year prior or 1 year after the second injury, and like the next day I can't even like walk to the bathroom, and I have like a stress reaction in my foot, and so it felt like it was a never ending whirlwind. It's like, all right, what am I going to hurt this time after trying this? And that it's not not a great way to go through it, but I think it gave me a lot of understanding, and I think it also gave me meaning in life after when we'll talk about it probably in a little bit, but gave me a lot of meaning on what to do after getting through that.
I love the humility that you have, and I admire the fact that you're open to talking about this because it's not easy to talk about. And I also love the fact that you are just making so many people feel better or changing their lives, or like you said, your DMs are open and making it okay to talk about, which it should be okay to talk about.
Hmm.
You shouldn't hide. And like you said, it's something so like traumatic like that, or something so small can have such a butterfly effect. Because like you said, you can get an injury. Next thing you know, you're thinking about this, then you're thinking about that. Then in your
Hmm.
case, a lot of money was put into you getting drafted and signing for that amount that you did. What was it, $3 million? Three
Yeah,
seven
it's
3 point.
like 3.7, and like it's crazy because like that's probably the majority of like the DMs and tweets I was getting like during that time was like about that.
Now you, as Jake, you're at home and you're not playing 2018. You're not playing 2019, and then I guess kind of using a hockey reference since we've been along those lines during this conversation. In the NHL, players say that if you're a goal scorer, players say that after 2 or 3 games, if they don't start scoring, they put so much pressure on themselves because they're the goal scorer. They have to go out there and score. So they just drive themselves up a wall. Now, like in your case, not playing baseball after signing for that much and just sitting there just trying to feel better, but there's certain things that you can't control. There's only so many
Yeah,
things that you can control. So what were those controllables for you that kind of made things better?
yeah. I mean, at the time, like I during those 2 years, like I didn't control anything. I was like, you can't. I couldn't even go on a walk or go on a hike or anything like that. And like it was very hard to keep those uncontrollables, out of your head and stop worrying about them. And then I kind of like I want to say it was like right before like the world shut down with COVID. I had like two moments during that time when I was at spring training. The first one was like I think this is probably the first time I've talked about this, but like I I might have talked about it one other time, but beside the point. I was laying down in bed in my hotel room during spring training, and like I just started crying. Like I literally just started crying, like tears rushing out, and it was like a good hour of just like me crying. And I think that's like very important in this story because it kind of showed that like I was accepting of how I was, what my story is, and everything that has happened over the last 2.5 years. And so then the next moment was with our mental skills, like our psychologist with the big league team. And we just had a talk, and he's like, only you can decide like how this goes. Only you. Nobody else can make this decision for you. And just think about it, man. Like, I know you're probably thinking about quitting, but it's like, what's the worst that can happen? You play for 10 years and doesn't work out. Like, just keep doing it. Nobody can set their timeline in the sport. So, might as well just try. And that kind of gave me a little like kick in the ass a little bit and say like, all right, like here's your platform. Like, what are you going to do with it? And after that conversation, I looked in the mirror when I got home to my hotel room and sent out the tweet that's pinned on my Twitter, just saying like, this is all I've been dealing with, and kind of just laid it all out and say like, all right, from this point on, like it's go time. And so, yeah, it was kind of like a awakening for like a week there. And then it's kind of like weird because COVID obviously hits like 2 days after that, and like the whole world's like completely different. And so that was definitely another thing to navigate after coming to terms with everything that I had dealt with.
Which is wild because in your case, it's almost just like, well, now I'm gonna make sure I could deal with this as best as possible. So you're gonna handle that challenge as well as you possibly can, given everything else that you've already been through.
Yeah,
So that's great that your mentality had gotten right at that point because, yeah, as everybody knows, it's still not over, especially at the time of this recording. But it's just so crazy. And dude, you're so right. I mean, like, there's been so many times, and this happens to everybody, and that you pin up so much and you don't even realize, or you don't cry. Dude, it's all
hmm
right to cry.
yeah,
Like
it's
anybody
okay.
could cry. It feels good. Think about it as just like things that just need to leave your body so that your body can
Yeah,
replenish with new tears or new hot water, whatever you want to call it. But
exactly.
like, dude, if it feels good. I mean, I've done it. Like when my parents had gotten divorced and my mom had breast cancer. Thankfully, now she's healthy. But it had all happened at the same time, and I was in high school, and like, dude, it's all right to cry. I've definitely cried since then. There's
Hmm.
other things too where if you're in a situation where you need some sort of alleviation or just a way to decompress or just not be stressed out, choose the better path. Pick up artwork, pick up anything, running,
Yep.
something that's positive for you. Because you can go with the drugs, you go the alcohol, you can
Hmm.
take those routes, but it's probably not going to end up all that well for you. So just talk to somebody.
Yep.
Like you said, your DMs are open. We'll at the end of this, we're going to shoot out Jake's social media platforms, but talking is the best part, and just
Hmm.
saying how you feel and being honest with everybody and honest with yourself. And again, like, I admire that tremendously about you, and just like being willing to talk about it, because it is important. And I appreciate you even more sharing those stories with us, because they are personal stories. So I thank you for that.
Yeah. No, I mean, I always just kind of look at it like if I can help one person out there, just one, I'm making the world a better place. So, but kind of touch on what you said, like I kind of got in fast water and started working out and stuff. And like you said, like pick up good activities. I think during those 2 years, I picked up bad activities. I was probably drinking too much and doing stuff like that. And then I kind of have that mental shift a little bit. And it's like, I'm focusing on meditation, focusing on going walks outside and doing like riding my Peloton bike, it's just kind of like, it flipped, like the preferences and the perspective flipped my regular habits to ultimately promoting good mental health rather than doing something that's going to hurt it.
Dude, my guy, let's go. So meditation,
Hmm.
like, I tried meditating the other day, just this walk through guiding meditation that I found on Spotify. And I wasn't like too open to it, because I'm like, oh, I could just sit there and like think about stuff.
Yeah.
But I listened to it, and this one dude was talking about a ball of gold, and start from the top of your head like a light bulb and end at your
Yeah.
feet. And like, I'm like, what is this guy talking about? But the time I got to my feet, I was like, damn, I feel great right
You
now.
feel great, right?
Yeah, I'm
For
like,
real. Like
I'm like,
that's the worst
what
part
just
of like,
happened?
it's the worst part of recommending it to people because they're like, I don't know, man. And then it's like you do it once and you're like, oh wow, like this is actually like this is really cool.
Yeah, one of the second one that I did, like, towards the end, I was like, I was sitting there, I was like, "Damn, where'd this dude go?" Like,
Yeah.
but that's how good it was. Like, the point of it is just like you're just so at calm and peace. But no, so that's good. And then also the video games too. Video games, I love there is at one point video games were looked in such like a bad light, because like you waste time and do all this other stuff. But it's great to decompress. And also too, now kids are making millions of dollars off of it. One of my buddies who I had on the show, he was the number one ranked Madden player in the entire world. So
Damn.
he was making a crush and making a ton of money
Oh yeah.
off of just playing video games. But even that too, you know what I mean? Like, don't feel guilty if you just sit there and like rip some vid games with your
No,
boys.
that's like one of like my mental releases. I mean, like even now, like I'll have moments where I just had like a really really hard day, and like I'll I'll text my family, I'll text my girlfriend, like, hey, I'm just gonna zone out for like 2 hours and play video games because it is a mental release. Like it kind of gets your mind off of everything you're thinking about and all the stresses you're dealing with. And so like, yeah, I mean, I think it's a form of meditation in itself. I think being able to connect with friends that you're not physically with or physically close to. Also, I mean, I think it kind of promotes that talking about your life with other people, which is really cool.
Yes, sir. Agreed. So now 2017 is the injury,
Hmm.
which you had more injuries afterwards, like you just said. 2018, no baseball. 2019, no baseball because of injury. 2020, COVID hits, so no baseball organized, at least. And then that takes us to 2021. So now this is where the over 1,100, 1,163 days of no organized baseball, to be exact. God, and you're still there, dude. I told you before this in the DMs. I was like, "You are the definition of keep swinging, dude. You literally kept swinging until you got back to playing organized baseball." You,
Uh-huh.
oh man. So, how do you celebrate that? And just like, I love seeing all your posts from a while ago on
Mhm.
Instagram, and then I could tell as I'm scrolling up, I'm like, this is where the evolution is coming.
Yeah.
This is where look at this monster. I'm
Uh-huh.
like, yo, fire me up,
it's
man.
it's wild. I like legitimately like that. There almost are no words for like that progression. You know, I got to thank like the people that helped me through it. You know, I mean, my family was there by my side the entire time and saw the worst and saw the best. But yeah, I mean, it was a lot of hard work. You know, in 2020, it was all right. Like, I need to lose 30 pounds if I want to be serious here. You know, and so it was riding the bike in the morning, playing tennis in the afternoon, doing swims, like in the early evening, and so like it kind of became that routine where it was that every single day, and you know, I playing tennis with my mom and going on walks with my dad, and you know, doing all of that. So that kind of like helped the body comp get back to where it was. And now the baseball side of it, I I don't know. I kind of changed my swing a little bit from college because like I got in 2020 I got to the alt site and like I'm just getting absolutely dusted. Like I mean these guys like I haven't seen a 98-mile-an-hour fastball in however many years. You know, it's like I'm just getting dusted, and so I had to like change my swing a little bit and. I kind of progressed it to a much better spot than what I was out of the draft. And then, you know, the first day of spring training, like driving to the field in 2021, like I'd gotten at it on the 40 man, which was like sick because the White Sox were by my side the entire time. And, you know, it's probably a hassle for them the majority of the time, but, you know, they stayed by my side. And like, I just, like, this is another moment. Like, it was not a sad cry. It was like a happy cry. And it took like 20 minutes for me to get to the field. And I'm just like listening to music and like have these like insane emotions and show up. And yeah, it's interesting. And then spring training ends. And so the first day back was May 4th, I guess. We end up going to another alt site in Chicago, and we're playing against like the Cubs alt site the entire time. And so like I'm still playing basically every day and like getting there. And then like that day one comes in Charlotte, and like I can't even describe it. Like it was just like it almost didn't seem real, and still doesn't seem real after like the next couple of months after that. But yeah, I mean it was like damn, this is like what you worked for, and this is like I mean, honestly, I would go through everything I went through again because I think it gave me perspective and it gave me a lot of maturity, and it honestly helped me become who I am today in a lot of positive ways. And, you know, I think there's always like a lot of books I read always talk about like some of the worst things that happen in your life end up being some of the best. And I fully believe that my Achilles injuries ended up being one of the best things that could have happened to me in my life.
Big time. And we've all known stories, especially of first round draft picks who signed for all this money and they walk around like hot shots. And then next thing you know, they're out of baseball 2 years from then. So the fact that you're able just to stick with it and just literally handle everything as best as you possibly could. And then you show up, you get added to the 40-man roster. And then in 2021, you also got selected to the MLB Futures Game, which for anybody listening, that is the highest honor that you could get during the minor league baseball season because it's the all-star game of all the entire minor league system. So this dude had not played since 2017, and next thing you know, he's at the all-star game in Colorado. Like, come on, man. We had
Yeah.
Brennan Davis on the show, and like he won the MVP that game. You know, Brennan.
Hmm.
And actually, ironically, Chicago Cubs. So you guys are
Yeah.
going to be
Uh-huh.
rivals for a while. But was that one of those moments? I know you said that you had that happy moment where you were kind of crying like tears of joy when you were in the clubhouse that second time around, around this time. But like, was that kind of one of those moments where you just were like, all right, this is what I stayed strong and persevered for?
Yeah, 100%. You know, I always say like that first game in Charlotte was probably the most meaningful of my career. even after everything I've gone through. But yeah, I mean, when I got called into the office, we were in Nashville, and like they told me I'm going to the Futures game, and I'm like, damn, like this is like that's wild. Like, I never really expected me to be on that. Especially after missing so much time, and I was putting together a good season, but it was just like it's one of those things where it's like, yeah, like I I worked my tail off for this, and it's like it's almost like a partially you're like very confident in yourself, and it's like, yeah, like I deserve this, but also at the same time, it's like, dude, what the hell is going on? Like if you would have told me at the beginning of the season this is how it would go, like, come on, like no way.
No, for real, man, you're right, and you're with the best of the best, and you see some MLB players, some former MLB stars. Ken Griffey Jr. was there, like you said, man, you can't write a better script, which the story just kept on continuing to be written when you eventually made your MLB debut later on in the summer in 2021. So another moment to celebrate. That game, you go 2 for 4. Your first big league hit was a double. I love the Chicago White Sox tweet. I think it was something like, "I'll have a burger with
Make
that,
it
or
double.
make it a
Yeah.
double, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll have a burger,
Yeah.
make it a double."
Oh yeah. That was so sweet. And like for me, it was just kind of like it was one of those things that just told me I chose the right path. It was more of a validating thing, and validating on all the work I'd put in. But I think it was like for me, it was more special seeing my parents there, and like knowing they got to experience the worst times, and also like this debut, after all the hours they both put in over the years, and dating back to when I was born, so it was very cool to share that experience with them, and yeah, it was something else for sure.
They drove 8 hours that night, right? Your family took an
Yeah,
8 hour trip to get to the game.
yeah, up to Detroit.
So you better perform if they're doing that, man.
I know,
Shoot.
right? I mean, my dad's still upset about the other two at bats, but I mean, he was still happy with the two knocks.
Did you guys all stay in the same hotel that night?
No, but I think they were like the hotel next to us, but we went out to dinner, and it was just like a really cool moment to share with them, and spent the majority of that night together. But as they say, like baseball doesn't stop, and we got another game tomorrow, so went back to sleep.
I definitely have to ask this one. Did your dad, just for shits, bring any of those drinks from when you had gotten drafted, just as like a funny, like, all right, like,
What's funny is I think he did, but like I had two buddies from college that were up
he's
there
the only
too,
one who
and
liked him that night.
they're like, no way, man, we're not doing that again. We'll take like the Jim or the Johnny Walker like blue label. Let's get away from that. No, but no, he definitely thought about doing it and making it come full circle.
That's funny. That's great. Because I wanted to ask you, like, when you have all these setbacks and you have all these eventual triumphs and wins, how do you celebrate it? And the reason why I ask is this kind of may be like a little bit of a selfish question for myself, but I'm sure a lot of people out there are like this. But if something great happens, like so many times, it's like, all right, cool, I did that, like, awesome, sweet. Like, what's the next thing I can do? You know,
Yeah,
where it's just like try to be in the moment as much as possible. I've definitely done a much better job with that in like the last couple of years, but again, like I found the importance of just appreciating and celebrating the small wins. They all add up to a
hmm
huge one, but like you should take the time to celebrate those good ones and like
oh
have
yeah.
that kind of gratitude journal at the end of the day. But how for you do you celebrate those wins, and what would you say to people who probably should do a little bit more celebrating rather than being like, all right, cool, I sold that house, let me sell the next one. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, I mean, it's a tough question because you're right. Like, I think for the majority of my life, it was like, all right, what's next? And I mean, this is another meditation plug, but like when I started meditating, like you become mindful of yourself and like your inner voice and just like everything around you. and it keeps you very centered and in the present. I think that started teaching me how to be present in certain moments. And for me, like me being present is me sharing stories and, celebrating it with my family. Whether it's like we just talk about it and like sit down and talk about it. That's kind of how I celebrated it. And then also at the same time, like for me personally, it's like kind of like picking up memorabilia from that moment. Whether it's like obviously like we get our first hit ball and stuff, but it's like I kept literally every single thing I wore like the day of my debut. Um, just because like I think that creates the story in your head. Like every time I see it now, it's like, damn, that was really cool. Like that was awesome, and it kind of like always constantly reminds you of that. And if you can't find memorabilia, it's like taking a photo even and just kind of taking a photo of where you're at the time and kind of creating that present moment where you can kind of always go back to and still celebrate it in 10 years time. I think those are like the two ways that I celebrate it. I'm very thankful for my family, as I've obviously shown. So like the moments with my family, and it can be friends, it could be your wife, your girlfriend, your fiance, like whoever it is, like share those feelings in that moment with other people, because they'll remember it greatly too. And so it's like, in 10 years time, you reconnect with them, and it's like, hey, this is like that was really cool, and you tell stories from that time. So I think those are the two ways that me personally, that's how I celebrate it.
Yeah, that's a great take and great advice too that you just shared. And it's it's okay to be the annoying person to ask for a picture when big things happen, because like you
Exactly.
said, you want to remember them, you want to have them as a memory. Just the other night when I was talking to Whit Merrifield, he said he got a ball from David Price that was signed David Price. I was the first of your 3,000 hits. Like, it's because he got his first hit off of him in the big leagues. So he's got that up in his house that's visible so he could see. So it's like just those little things, those little reminders. I'm so happy that you kept all your stuff in this day and age.
Yeah,
It seems like there's somebody that's going to be collecting your uniform
collecting it.
before you
Yeah,
even take it off.
exactly.
David Ayers, you're a big hockey guy. David
Hmm.
Ayers, who
Yeah.
was the emergency backup goalie and got the win for the Carolina Hurricanes.
Hmm.
I had him on
No
season one
way.
of this show,
Yeah.
and he was telling me, I think it was as soon as he got off the ice, I think they took his stick or something like that. Maybe I could be wrong. I got to go back and double check. But like this guy, 40 something years old,
Yeah.
just came and got an NHL win as an emergency backup goalie.
Yes.
And as he's getting off the ice,
They take
somebody's
it.
there waiting
No
to.
way.
Yeah.
That's
So like,
insane. Yeah.
that's the
No.
type of stuff that goes on these days in sports. So that's so awesome that you're able to keep your stuff. And you eventually got your first big league home run too. Were you able to take that home?
Yeah, I got the ball and had the bat and like the cleats and everything I wore that night, and that was another like big
Dude.
moment for me. Yeah, I mean it's legitimately like what you were saying with like the goal scoring thing, because like I like got into two balls that like didn't go out, and I'm like, dude, I got the thing, like I can't hit them anymore, and then like it just like felt like all the emotions and like the stress of that just like gone. But yeah, I think I traded like a signed bat and a signed ball. Like a little kid caught it, which was really cool. It wasn't like a autograph hunter or anything like that. It was just like a little kid, they're enjoying the game. And so I got to give him some like signed stuff, and he gave the ball back, which was really cool.
Oh, so awesome. Another really cool thing about this too is I'm not sure which author it was or what person it is. I wish I remembered off the top of my head. I'll have to look it up later. But there's this person who he's an author and he would write books in a room that had a bunch of books. Your mom would appreciate this being a librarian.
Oh
And
yeah.
I know you said you like to read too, but he would surround himself with all these books by these great authors just to kind of create that energy in the room
Hmm.
to kind of just be like, yo, I'm going to put out my best work possible. So after I heard that, I was with Vlad Guerrero Jr. not that long ago, maybe about like a month ago at the time of this recording, and he had signed a jersey for me that said "Keep Swinging Stucko" on it on the side. So I'm like eventually when we get this house is gonna
Yeah,
I'll hit you
yeah.
up. I'm gonna hit you up. No, but like in the studio, just have all this stuff and just kind of a reminder. So like when I'm sitting there, I'll be thinking about his story. I'll be thinking about Jack Flaherty's story, Tim
Yep.
Anderson, your story. Just these stories of resilience where when you're sitting there and it's 2 o'clock or 3 o'clock in the morning, what's stopping me from finishing this project or
Yep.
from achieving
Mhm.
my goals, and that's the thing that I try to do as much as possible with this
Yeah.
podcast. And like,
Mhm.
dude, you are just the absolute man. I could go on and on with you, man. This is great. Dude, I appreciate you doing this. But before we wrap up and go to the bonus content, because I'm appreciative of your time and I'm aware how long we've been recording for, is there any sort of message out there that you want to get? Because again, I know that you want to be open to talking about certain messages that you have because they're very important, but also too, now's a great time just to share anything else that you have maybe on the back of your mind.
Yeah, I mean, I would say, going back to celebrating, stuff, I just kinda thought of this while we were talking. I think journaling is a really good thing for everybody to do. I think every single night before you go to bed, just kinda journal your day, so you can kinda see your headspace throughout, and that's both for good times and bad times, you know? It kinda is a constant reminder and a book of yourself, and that's what I've been doing a lot more of, and that helps me celebrate the little wins throughout the day. So I think that's something that everybody should do. And then I mean, we kind of hinted at it a little bit, but I kind of have always used five pillars for my like mental health and kind of getting over it. It's pretty self-explanatory. I mean, meditation is number one. Being outdoors and doing some sort of physical activity, get your heart rate up, whether it's a walk, a hike, biking, whatever it is. I think being outdoors is very specific because once you're outside, you kind of are one with nature, and I'm very into that, like kind of feeling the presence of nature around you and being able to understand that there are so many things out there that are bigger than yourself, and it kind of like teaches you that lesson of like this isn't all about me. Like there's a lot more going on out there that I don't know about. So those are meditation, going outside, reading. I think reading's definitely a form of meditation. I think reading 10 pages a day kind of puts you in that centered state where that's the only thing you're focused on. You're not looking at your phone, at Instagram, Twitter all the time. I think that's very important to kind of create that stillness. I think the fourth one, what we've talked about a lot already, is talking about it. Always being open about it and being able to talk to your family and friends about it, or me, like whoever it is, talk about it. And then the fifth one, which is eluding me right now, I'm stuck on this one.
I'm actually just pretty thoroughly impressed that you
Yeah,
were able to rattle
I'm
those
trying.
four off as
Yeah,
well as you
those
did.
four off.
The
There's
entire
one.
time, I'm like, dude, this guy could be like a motivational speaker, or you could do television easily, man. Like, it's hard
I
to
would
it's
love
hard
to.
to do.
I'm trying to think of what my fifth one is that I always do. Oh, create a routine. This is a very important lesson I learned, I think, over when I was trying to get back to my normal self working out, and getting back to the playing weight I wanted to be at. I would write down my routine every single night before I went to bed for the next day. And there's something about mental health and having that routine. I think, especially for anxiety, if you can map out, like I would literally map out the exact times I'm going to be everywhere, like how long I'm going to do this each activity for, and it takes that anxiety out of the way. Where it's like, what do I have to do next? It's like, no, I've already written it out, and like I don't need to worry about what's next. What am I going to do next? Like my routine is already written, and I'm going to follow it strictly. And obviously you can deviate, but like even just writing it down and putting it down in words kind of holds yourself accountable for doing it, and also gives you a lot less stress from figuring out what's next.
Those are all great, and the best part about them is that they're all free. Anybody can do them, and they're easy
Yep,
to do.
exactly.
So like they're easy to apply. And as you're listing those five off and describing them, one thing that I guess I would also highly suggest, based on your story, is just kind of having that right hand, whether it's a close friend or family
Hmm.
member. Something that you like to do is to call people. It not the same person every single day. It could be somebody completely different. Just talk to them, let you know that you value them. You feel good,
Exactly.
they feel good. They're surprised, they feel good.
Hmm.
One of your buddies, Dan Dunning, another pro ball player, he was with you during your rehab. He was kind of that dude also for you that
Oh yeah.
was just kind of like that accountability type person, but also too
Hmm.
going through it with you. So I know for it could be something as small as working out, but if you just text a buddy like, "Yo, I just ran 5 miles. All right, cool. I'm gonna run 6."
I'm going.
Or
Yeah.
like,
Exactly.
yeah,
Uh-huh.
and I truly believe in setting the tone also. So what you do is the night before you map everything out. So the benefits of that is that if the you wake up right, and if you check your phone, you automatically go into um like uh like scatterbrain type mode.
Yep.
Your day spirals because you don't know what's going on, and you're concerned too much about what you have to do for other people. Just don't look at your phone for the first 30 minutes a day and you'll
Yep.
be good. You'll be in
Exactly.
more control and have that game plan. But yeah, so like right now, tonight, while we're recording this, it's a Monday night. And dude, I was so jazzed up to record with you on a Monday night because I'm like, yo, this is a great way to set the tone for the rest of the week. And
Oh yeah.
and that goes for working out, as everybody knows. You get that good workout and just show up to the gym, whether it's just 10
Yep.
minutes or like an
Doesn't matter
hour.
how
Just
long. Yep.
just show
Hmm.
up and make it happen.
Exactly. No, that's you're exactly right with the accountability buddy. It's somebody you can talk to, show you appreciate them, but also have that little competitive edge with each other. Working out and whatever it may be. And Dane was definitely a huge proponent of my comeback. And we're best friends ever since, and for the rest of our lives. And like he still sends me like Snapchats from when I was going through it, and I was 30 pounds heavier, and he's like, dude, like I'm so effing proud of you. Like it's crazy where you were at and like where you're at now. And it's just like little things like that we send back and forth to each other that just like make you feel really cool about every single thing you've been through with each other.
Yeah, I didn't mean to add a sixth pillar, and I'm not going
No,
to say I added a sixth pillar,
let's add
but
as many pillars.
for you, it's awesome. I know you're a big psychology guy, or you said
Oh yeah.
philosophy or whatever, so I'm sure you appreciated that. And I'll wrap up, and I gotta bring this back to the CBA, the Christian Brothers College and Christian Brothers Academy background. To this point of having that accountability friend or that good friend, we were on a retreat with this guy, Father Paul, great guy. And like, oh man, retreats, they're pretty long, but
Oh yeah.
there's one thing that he said that I'll always remember. And it was, as I forget right now, but he was like, if you were ever in, say, a car accident or in a time of need, and you could make one phone call to one person who you know is going to answer, who would that person be? And it's not always going to be a sibling. It's not always going to be a relative.
Mm-mm.
It's not always going to be a friend. But who would that one person be?
Yeah.
So just try to build those relationships
Hmm.
that you do have that one person, or hopefully more than that one person. But yeah,
For sure. For sure. No, I like that a lot.
yeah. Yo, the St. John Baptist de La Salle before
Pray for
classes.
us.
Pray
Yeah.
for us.
Lift
Yeah,
Jesus in our hearts
everybody
forever.
listening to
Yeah.
this,
It's
pray for us.
every
We'll
single.
pray for you. All right.
Yep. That's the CBC Christian brother way, I guess.
Yes, sir. Dude, all right, you're the man. So before we go into the bonus content, I want you to shoot out all your social media platforms so that everybody could follow you on Twitter and on Instagram and anywhere else that you want to send listeners your way.
It's Burgertron 13. That's both Instagram and Twitter, and I'm actually coming up with some cool stuff with a website, and kind of have like blog posts about mental health, and creating a lot of awareness. So it'll come up like in the new year. Well, I guess whenever, like 15 days from when this was recorded. But yeah, so I'm really excited about that. And so if you need any help with mental health stuff, I'm gonna have that website up and rolling as well.
Awesome. And do you know you got the URL to shoot out?
Yeah, it's www.jakeburger30.com.
Dude, my man, St. John Baptist de La Salle.
Pray for us.
My guy. Thank you, brother.